this one. Okay, so good to end on that powerful note that we just did. Just a few exit questions for you to kind of, help me and anybody else that's considering this work. Help me improve the process, help me understand what works, what doesn't work, and just be 100% honest. Like, I know it can be a little more difficult face to face, but your honesty is always open. So 100% honesty, and I'll just go through these and just give me your authentic answer back. So what few things were you struggling the most with prior to this work, and what else had you tried to use to facilitate like healing in that?
So I had been dealing with trauma and unworthiness from my parents, my family of origin, from my ex-husband, from an ex-boyfriend. Good Lord, I can't even talk right now. And I was also dealing with, I think right before I started with you, I had relapsed in my alcoholism. And so I had been using just typical talk therapy, AA meetings, having a sponsor, that kind of thing.
Okay. And had you found much success with those, or did you find they were limited?
I found some success. Clearly the AA wasn't 100% successful, or I wouldn't have relapsed like I did. And the talk therapy, I think, is still really important. But honestly, my talk therapist is the one that recommended that I come to you and see if we could get a little bit more holistic into what was going on.
Yeah, kind of getting into that body stuff, like where is this trauma and these negative processes happening in your body?
Right.
So, perfect. Describe your experience working with me in 3 words.
Empowering, enlightening, let's see, really, really, really hard, but totally worth it. I know that's not a
no, I like it. Yeah. That is acceptable. That is acceptable, because there's actually a question about that right after this one. It's, what part of the work was the most breakthrough for you?
I think just recognizing how much of what happens in my brain and in my body and in my spirit is all so deeply, deeply rooted in that unworthiness. I mean, everything, it seems like, well, it not seems like it, everything is rooted in just that sense of unworthiness that I've struggled with for so long.
Yeah. And that's a really, really common one for a lot of women. And it doesn't ever seem like that on the surface, but as you start dissecting it and you pull away all the pieces and everything else, it's like underneath, it's generally always what's there. Yeah, it's a really, really heavy thing, and it sprouts out a lot of different seeds that form who we are as adults. So it takes a lot of dismantling. What was your favorite part? Like, what did you enjoy the most about the process?
I think for me, it was just knowing that I had somebody that got it and was on my side and was there. And, because you understand. I mean, even like today, you understood really what the root problems were without my ever having to say it, and just know there was somebody that got me. It's really important.
Yeah. That's sometimes we get so locked into the problem that we can't really see it, and I think that's the beautiful thing about coaching and therapy and everything else, is it's that fresh set of eyes that says, oh, I get this. Like, let's, does this resonate? How does that feel? And bringing you out of that, instead of us just feeling like we have to be in it by ourselves and figure it all out ourselves. So I love that. What was the hardest part?
Oh gosh. Really being open-minded, and I think early on staying committed through the process when it was really wasn't sure it was going to work. And everything in my brain was saying, this is stupid. This is not how you need to be going about this. And really talking myself, because there were some days, honestly, I had to say, okay, even if you think it's stupid, we're just going to go spend 10 minutes. It's just 10 minutes. You can do this. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. There's no harm, no foul, but just give yourself a chance and see what happens. So I think really kind of overcoming some of my own prejudices about it was really hard.
Yeah. And skepticism, everything from a healthy skepticism to a full on like dig your heels and I don't want to do this, is such an important part of this work. And it's literally just our subconscious being like, no, I don't want to go there.
Please don't make me change. Please don't make me change.
Exactly. Like change is not cool. So the easiest way for the subconscious to communicate, I don't want to change, is to tell you it's really stupid and it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money, which is exactly why I always tell people on their first call, I'm like, we're going to commit to 4 weeks because you're going to want to bail maybe by week 1, but you're going to continue to see the changes if you commit to it. So I love that you brought that up because it's just such a natural part of the process. And you know, the other thing is that skepticism, if you put your guard down, a lot of us have had wounds and traumas that kind of tie into trust issues. And so if we trust in something, then that means we might have an expectation and a hope, and then we're afraid we're going to get let down. So it really opens up a deeper part of us that says, can I trust? Can I believe that something can actually work for me? And that goes back to worthiness, because if we don't feel worthy, we're just going to write everything off as it's not going to work. And some people never even start their process to heal because they don't feel worthy. And if they don't feel worthy, they have no hope that it could ever change. So this all connects so much. And I just love what you're sharing. And I think, you know, other people hearing it, it can be really helpful for them to be like, oh, that's normal for me to feel that. Like, that's just how it goes, because it is absolutely normal. So what has changed or improved the most?
I think my self-confidence, just the ability to say, this is not working for me right now. And, you know, I'm not great at it, but before I would never say it at all. You know, I would just let things kind of roll over me. And now I do have the ability, like with this guy, to say, you know what, I'm not doing this. This is not what I want. And you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, and I'm out. And whereas before I probably would have been like, you know, I'm really kind of disappointed, but I want you to be happy. So we'll just kind of keep on where we are. And
that self-assertiveness is huge. It's huge. If you went your whole life with never standing up for yourself, advocating for yourself, setting boundaries, much less reinforcing them, that couldn't be a bigger transformation. Like, it literally could not be more black and white of like, wow, I stood up for myself. And even if my voice shook a little bit, and even if I hesitated, and even if it took me a couple of days to build up the courage, I still did it. And those celebrations are huge. The takeaways of that are huge, because it's just like going into the gym and working out. Every time you do that, you get stronger and stronger. And that's how several months, years of work, you're a completely different person. You look back and you're like, I don't even recognize that person. And it does take those little, really difficult decisions every day. Just like showing up and doing, you know, EFT, if you think it's dumb, it's all the little decisions that add up. So I love that too. So final question, what would you say to someone else considering this work, but who is hesitant?
Do it. Absolutely. Just do it. It will change everything about your life and the way you think about yourself and the way you, just do it. Don't hesitate. Do it.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your feedback on your process. You know, I always am very adamant about, I am just the lighthouse. You and every client that works with me shows up and they do the work. They do that uncomfortable, sit down. I think this is stupid, but I'm going to do it anyway. They face off with really uncomfortable truths about themselves. They have to get into the ugly stuff sometimes, and it takes a lot of courage. So you are the ultimate, hero in your story. You're the one that's ultimately created this change, but it has been an honor to facilitate that and walk through that with you. And yeah, I'm just so proud of all your progress, and I know it will continue.
Thanks, Holly.